Hello, and welcome to Policy Pod by LDA. My name is Matt Goche, and I'm your host. This podcast aims to break down common trends, problems, and concepts in the life insurance market, and we wanted to create a place where we could talk openly about things that confuse both clients and advisors alike. Today's episode is a special one for me because I got life insurance. Yes, it's September 2024, and I finally did it. I pulled the trigger. We got life insurance last year, and I've had life insurance now for close to 1 year. I thought it would be really good to put this episode out in September around Life Insurance Awareness Month. So this is my story about getting life insurance alongside Darren Ryan with Ryco Financial, who was my life insurance advisor through the process. Darren is the insurance and estate planning subject matter expert at Ryco Financial. He's a qualifying member of the $1 Million Roundtable at Top of the Table since 2021, the Advocacy Chair and Vice President of the Advocates Newfoundland Chapter, and a member for the Conference for Advanced Life Underwriting, or CALU. Darren has been providing professional financial advice for more than 10 years and is licensed across Canada. Darren completed his CFP designation in 2015 and was awarded the Young Advisor Award by the Knowledge Bureau in 2016, and in 2017, the Dunstall Award for completing the CLU with the highest marks in Newfoundland. Most recently, Darren was named Top 40 Under 40 Rising Stars by Wealth Professional Canada magazine in 2023. Darren focuses his practice on helping professionals meet their investment goals and insurance needs, with a special segment of his practice tailored towards physician and healthcare professionals. Aside from work, Darren is an avid hockey player and a very hopeful Maple Leafs fan. He enjoys traveling, exploring new places, and hunting and fishing with his family. Thank you, Darren, for all the hard work that you put in with this process. I don't think I could have asked for a better life insurance advisor, especially one that I know is going to be with me for the foreseeable future with my life insurance policies, not just including this one. Before we get further into the episode, I do want to say a big thank you to Darren. As you're going to find out, this was the Murphy's Law of life insurance applications. If something could go wrong, it did go wrong, or it got delayed. Darren was a steady rock through the whole process for me, and I highly would recommend him as an advisor to anyone who needs insurance. Are you tired of paying for leads that just don't deliver? Say goodbye to ineffective lead generation methods and discover the power of LDA Lead Gen. Transform your website into a powerful lead generation tool and start capturing high-quality, tailored leads today. No more paying for each lead, and LDA Lead Gen is a cost-effective solution at only $20 a month on your LDA subscription. Your prospective clients will start by filling out their name and where they live, as well as why they're trying to find insurance, whether that be having a baby, buying a house, going to school, or cottage succession. After this, LDA will notify you of the opportunity and will provide a tailored presentation as a starting point for the conversation with your new prospective client. If you want to learn more information about Lead Gen, go to www.lifedesignanalysis.com/lead-gen. That's LEAD-GEN. Darren, it's good having you back. This is not the first call we've had. I don't know, 5 or 6 calls already over the last year. Going through the process.
Yeah.
So let's just talk about you a little bit. What got you into life insurance, and what got you started in the industry anyway?
Thanks, Matt. So my dad's been a financial planner for nearly 40 years now. So when I was going through university, it was always, an option to come here. And then when I did my MBA and got into the investments and finance courses more so, I said it's really interesting. Basically, I could talk about it all day and not get sick of it or tired of it. And so then I approached my dad and said, yeah, I'm ready now. And so the insurance piece obviously is part of, financial planning. And so I joined my dad's firm. And that was nearly 14 years ago now. And been growing as an advisor ever since.
How has technology really changed? 14 years ago to today, how has your technology changed how you've approached insurance sales?
put it in perspective, we basically only just got a scanner when I started. So to say we've come a long way is an understatement. And my dad will say he remembers the old rate books and that it was revolutionary when we even got software for insurance pricing. So basically we continue to evolve and try to stay at the forefront, but especially over the last 3-4 years or so, software like life design analysis, Zoom, DocuSign, like these things have really helped increase the efficiency in our business. The software itself was just revolutionary. However, during COVID, we found that our clients also became more efficient as well. So with work from home and people scheduling Zoom meetings, a lot of folks had more structured calendars and saying like, I have a hard cutoff. My next meeting starts, say, in 45 minutes, and you became more efficient. And also, you weren't allowed to waste time driving around because it was just one after the other. And so, the online meetings basically helped both our office become more efficient, but also our clients learn to become more efficient as well. And so, life design analysis and DocuSign for sure, just being able to get signatures so quickly, being able to illustrate things more clearly, really helped increase the efficiency in our business.
Mm-hmm. Is there any trends like from that really like stood out to you that were like, let's say products were changing to adapt to this new normal of people changing, working from home, or was there any adaptation that you saw was coming out of that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess technically like the products may have existed before, but the uptake over the last few years has been phenomenal. And it was a catalyst that really increased basically the amount of users that got on board and started using these programs right away.
Did you see any like increase in first time insurance buyers? Like I know like obviously a crisis such as like a COVID, the pandemic, that really puts perspective on a lot of people, especially if you start losing loved ones. Was there an increase in that?
In our business, what we found more so was that it wasn't first time buyers. It was people who had already bought insurance who were looking to increase, especially amongst physicians. So we had a number of calls out of the blue. Like not that many people call looking to buy more insurance or buy insurance. But we had a number of, I'll say probably a dozen or so calls, which is a huge anomaly of people looking to increase their coverage and basically do it yesterday. And so to being able to do e-applications and put temporary insurance in place and just get it up and running as fast as possible. Like we had never really seen that before. And to be honest, like kind of haven't really seen it much since, but during COVID, that was one thing that did happen.
Mm-hmm. And now since we have been returned to work, I mean, we're going to the office at LDA like once or twice a week. I know other businesses are starting to return pretty hard back to the office. Are you seeing the same thing with your clients? Are they still wanting to do the Zoom call meetings, or are you starting to get more people coming into the office for the face-to-face or meeting out for coffee, or how is that?
Definitely more face-to-face meetings, and potentially it's just being here in Newfoundland on the East Coast. Maybe it's just a different way of life. But it's definitely been more so return to work. But there's still some people just for quick meetings are much more comfortable now to do something quickly over Zoom, like a quick touch point. Not everything needs to be done in person, but definitely the majority of our big meetings are in person.
Yeah. Was there like, I know when the pandemic started, I was actually, there was pre-LDA for me. So I was actually working in sales at the time. And I know for me, it was really hard getting people to trust you over the phone, I think, at first. And they were hesitant to share some information. Obviously, they were at all-time high of alert for being like, I might be getting scammed or whatever, right? So was that the same for you? Like with clients, were they hesitant to kind of open up a little bit over the phone at first?
Fortunately, the majority of our clients have been long-standing clients of our firm. But what we did find was that some people, basically their bank branches were closed. And so like they had to find someone to work with, whether it was a pension they had to transfer during a layoff. And so we basically, if someone had told us 2 years before the pandemic that we would, sell life insurance, over the phone or over Zoom and not in person, said absolutely like no chance. And then when it happened, it's like, well, people had nowhere else to go. And basically they learned to basically have to trust you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it worked out for us.
Also a trustworthy person, I guess. I don't know. But,
last August, I put out a call saying that I was looking for, or it may have been July, but I said I was looking for life insurance, and I never purchased life insurance, and I wanted to go through the process. Why did you reach out? Obviously, like, you wanted the business, but what else? Like, what was the reason for reaching out to me?
Yeah. So basically, I'll say long time listener, first time caller. When I saw the podcast, by the time I saw it was probably on episode 3 or 4. So I went back and started listening to the episodes one by one. And by the time I actually heard your podcast, I assumed that someone else probably had already reached out by then because I didn't listen right away. But basically just, wanted to meet you and go through the process. And I thought being on this side of it would also be fun.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you're in Newfoundland and I'm in Ontario, so I know you're licensed to sell insurance in Ontario, which is definitely was a huge positive. But that was I wasn't sure who was going to reach out, to be honest, and it turned out you were the only advisor that reached out to me.
For the most part, you're probably the only person that is actually like from Ontario who deals with me per se. It's so many Newfoundlanders who move away for work and just want to continue working with us. That's really where our licensing comes from, is that folks are, calling me from Ontario to work with us typically. So it's just so many Newfoundlanders have moved to Ontario. So I have my license in Ontario and a number of other provinces. So yeah, no, but again, one thing with technology, no trouble to do everything over the phone and electronically now, because insurance companies used to have a huge problem with non-face-to-face sales, but obviously they had to learn to adapt to accept them for the better part of 2 years during COVID.
Yeah, no kidding. What would that say then about getting the business? It's kind of a lesson, like you should always be asking for the business no matter what.
Yes. You always definitely need to have a pipeline, and you just always have to have your eyes and ears open for sure. You never know where your next client's going to come from. Full stop.
Yeah. And you knew that I worked for LDA, and even you were even probably thinking well, maybe he's got somebody, but no harm in saying, hey, what's going on? Can I help you?
So I learned this from a number of wholesalers, actually. A number of wholesalers from insurance and investment companies deal with advisors all day, and no one ever asks for their business. Who are you working with? Just it's shocking the number of advisors who assume that wholesalers are being taken care of, and a lot of them, there's a far higher percentage of people think that actually don't have anyone and aren't working with anybody because they've never been asked. Yeah,
I mean, we've had people in the industry that pass away, and then you find out through the grapevine, they don't have insurance, and you're like, wait, what? They're a high producer of life insurance. What do you mean they don't have insurance? And then you watch their family have to struggle and scramble to get GoFundMes and get all this stuff, and you're like, how did you not have this set up?
I've heard similar stories. Just always want to practice what I preach, but have no trouble, asking someone who they're working with, and also be respectful. If someone's working with someone already, that's fine. Exactly. But it never hurts to ask.
Yeah. All right. So we'll go back to my experience. So we talked first time in August. You gave me an email, then I told you to give me a call. We had a quick introduction. And then that led to our first kind of official face-to-face meeting over video call, where we kind of went over the process of insurance. What were you expecting going into that call?
More so just do same approach as always, do a fact find, learn about you, your personal scenario, from your needs, regular questions. You're married, you have kids, you have a mortgage, traditional questions. And so number one is learning more about you, but then also, going through the process of doesn't really matter, how much insurance we apply for these days. The underwriting requirements are still the same. So it's important to get the ball rolling and complete a questionnaire and just basically get the wheels in motion on an approval process. And then it's no trouble to fine tune the amount of coverage and type of coverage after, but basically get the questionnaire completed and get the ball rolling, because most insurance companies these days, it's not instant approval anywhere. It could be weeks of turnaround time is usually measured in weeks. So it's not hours or days, it's usually weeks. So, but at the same time, really, we were fine tuning the amount, the type of coverage. I just wanted to get some approvals in place.
Yeah, so we did that first health questionnaire together, and then we sent it off. I waited, and I was not expecting this, but there was actually one of the insurance companies reached out to me, called out, and asked if they could do the health questionnaire that we had already done. And I went over that on the phone with them again, and I was confused. I was like, well, we just submitted this. Why am I doing this again? And I brought that up to Charlie. He said, oftentimes he's heard that from carriers doing that, because if you lie the first time, or you maybe embellish a little bit the first time, and then you don't think about that answer the second time, they'll be able to catch the differences on the two. Felt like it was a waste of time for me, being like, as someone who didn't know that was going to happen, that felt a little bit of a waste of time.
As I know, after going through the process, a lot of insurance companies, their technology is lagging. And even though, like, lots of times you can select the box, tele-interview or medical questionnaire, we typically favor doing the medical questionnaire with all of our clients. And so we completed it, sent it in, they already had it, and then they turned around and called you anyways, which we never appreciate that as the advisor. We always appreciate a heads up, but they didn't give us a heads up. They just called you directly and asked you questions, and I was not kept in the loop on that. So it is frustrating, because, like, well, you did it and it was a waste of your time, and thank you again, but you don't have to do it twice. And so if we know up front, say, that a paramedical questionnaire is going to be required, like, I wouldn't ask you the questions up front if I knew that they were going to be required to be asked by a nurse anyways. Mm-hmm. And so because you're, so young, basically it's not required on the age and amount requirements with any carrier. So frustrating, but I'm not shocked.
At the end of the day, it was like, well, I'm just going to do this and get it out of the way instead of like trying to cause a fuss about it. But yeah, definitely is the first time. If I wasn't in the industry and that came out, I would have been like, what? Why are you calling me?
So most clients would just call me right away and say, Darren wants to say, sorry, I went through with you. Like, why are they calling me? And then I would get on the phone and say, this is not required. Please change the requirements. You already have the answers. But thank you for being so nice.
No problem. We put that in. We waited for kind of some pre-approvals. We had landed on, like, we talked about, term products. We talked about a UL. We talked about some whole life options, and we kind of nailed down to, like, right now with the budgeting in place, is that the term was the thing that was going to get us the coverage in the immediate term for my family, so that I was covered, and there's going to be no issue. So we had landed on that. Now, one thing we didn't really talk about too much when we were going through it was riders. What was the reason that we really didn't talk about the riders? Like, obviously, I know those can be very specific to individual events or individual things in someone's life. So what was the things that you were like, there's not enough flags for me to bring up any sort of riders on this product?
Great question. One of the, I'll say, least used riders is guaranteed insurability option. And part of the reason is, unlike disability insurance is a phenomenal feature. Future insurance options or additional insurance rider, different carriers call different things. It's a relatively inexpensive rider to add on to disability plans. And basically every disability plan that can have it should have it, especially for young professionals. But with the life insurance, in order to add that on, it's almost the exact same cost to just buy the insurance today. So it's the rider itself is basically essentially priced out of the market, at least with the majority of carriers. And then another rider that is essentially never really spoken about is accidental death as a rider. It is available. It's just very difficult sometimes to broach that subject. And, when you're dealing with financial planning, it's like, how much insurance coverage do you need? It's like, well, the insurance coverage is the insurance coverage, not that it should, be double depending on the way someone dies, or have to go back to someone's spouse afterwards and say, it all depended on how someone died and the amount of insurance that was paid out. And it's most important to have the right amount of coverage in place, rather than something that pays out in different scenarios. So the accidental death is also a rider that's never really spoken about. And anytime I've ever mentioned it, most people just say no. Like, if basically I can get a little extra real insurance, just do it.
So the process after that, we submitted the pre-approvals to get pre-approved, and we went with 3 carriers to try to get the kind of best market rate and maybe a little bit play out one off of each other to try to get the price down. And that took a while.
Yes, it did. And so, as an advisor, when we go through, the original questionnaire, which is why I like to ask the questions, oftentimes, depending on people's answers, you likely know in advance if someone may be rated or may have to have an exclusion in the future. And so basically, that's why we went ahead and applied with different carriers, essentially to see who we can get the best rating with, or the best approval with. And so when we applied with 3 different carriers, 2 had the same rating, and the third carrier had slightly better rating, so lower costs. So basically, in terms of which carrier to go with, basically one offered a lower price than everyone else on renewable and convertible terms. So that's one jumped off the page to go with.
Yeah, for sure. But the process of just from the time I signed the initial document for yep, this is what I wanted to do, these applications, we signed that at the beginning of September, I believe. And we didn't hear about the medical requirements for the nurse to come until October. And then I don't think I connected with her until middle of November. So it was a few months between even getting between when we signed the pre-approval to getting the blood work done.
So from time to time, when we send out and apply with multiple carriers at the same time, we have to set up a med share. And so oftentimes you ask the MGA to set it up, and it comes down to, I'll say, too many cooks in the kitchen sometimes, and things can slip between the cracks. That's part of that one would be on me to make sure that this gets done in an appropriate amount of time. But one thing was that on age and amount requirements, not everyone automatically has to do blood work. And so it's only issued as a requirement after applications are reviewed. Then once one carrier requires it, all want a copy of it before they'll go any further. And so in some instances, like if this was 5 years ago, any amount of coverage over $250,000, you would have had to do blood work anyway, and it actually would have been quicker. So basically, they didn't require it right away, so we can't order it right away.
Mm-hmm.
That was the main reason for the delays.
Mm-hmm.
Another reason on the delay was, even after we submitted the e-application, 6 weeks later, 6 weeks went by with one carrier, and there was still nothing even logged in their system. And it's we had decisions from 2 carriers by the time the third even basically reviewed it. Now, finally, when they did review it, they had everything to review all at once because all the blood work was done and the med share was done. They could see everything right away, and they did give us the best approval. But it goes to show that things can definitely slip between the cracks with insurance companies.
So we started in August. Now we're in October, November. We're getting the blood work done. I felt there was a little bit of waste, I guess you could say, again, in that process, because when she comes, the nurse came and she met me in my office, which was really nice. It was really convenient that she was able to meet me in the office. I didn't have to take time out of my day to go to a Dynacare lab or something to get my blood work drawn and the urine test. So she comes to meet me, and she has to take the samples. I was like, well, it's a med share, right? So they're going to see information between the carriers, but she has to take 3 samples. We had 3 applications. So I had 3 sets of blood work, 3 urine samples, and each one had to be filled out 3 sets of paperwork and sent in individually. She's like, yep, I have this package. I have to fill out these forms and send them off individually, even though there's a med share in place. And she's like, I don't know what the carriers do, but this is what I'm required to do. So I have to send it in. And so it's not much to me. For me, I'm sitting there like, well, you're just taking blood. Like, it's not that big of a deal. It's blood is blood, whatever. But I know for like the nurse, that's 3 paperwork she's got to fill out, repeat the same information 3 times on 3 sheets of paper. And then I'm sure Dynacare then has to send that in. And it feels like there could have been a more efficient way to handle that side of the process as a first time person going through the process.
So a med share is supposed to mean that you only have to do it once, and one carrier does pay for it, and they all get a copy of it. And honestly, Matt, this is the first time I've heard of this. And I'm sorry they had to give blood 3 times, but well,
it was on the same time. She just literally put the needle in and one tube out, and it was done. It didn't take longer for me, but I was watching her after, because I put the Band-Aid on, and I went to go get the urine sample. I come back and she's still copying across the papers. It's like, this must be annoying for you as the nurse. Like, imagine if it was 5 carriers. She's through this 5 times. Like, that seems like it's just a lot of work for these nurses to have to do.
That's not standard, Matt. I guess it's kind of like buying a car. It's like sometimes it could just be a lemon. It's like in your process, it was almost like if anything could go wrong, it did. In terms of the administration and the software, and so as I'm sure you can appreciate, as a consumer, buying insurance is not quick and certainly not easy.
Well, it's definitely the longest. I can't think of a process of buying anything that's took a longer period of time from the initial, like, hey, I think I want to buy insurance, to actually having that policy in hand, signed and enforced. Luckily, we got there, and it was all good. That wasn't the end of the issue. I mean, we used to say, yeah, if anything could go wrong, it seemed like it went wrong. In December, I emailed you again. So I think it was end of November, beginning of December, we had the policy was technically in force. It was signed in force. I had sent the paperwork, or you had sent me the signature. I did the e-sig. The carrier rejected the e-signature. So then you had to send me the signature paper back. I had to print it off, sign it, scan it, send it back to you. Again, it's just an extra step. Not that frustrating of a thing.
But from an advisor standpoint, you want this to be as seamless as possible.
Yeah.
And so you don't want anyone to have to go through these hurdles. And to be honest, Matt, I know one of your questions on your list here was it easier or harder selling someone in the industry? So because if this was someone outside the industry, it'd be very easy to, get turned off from the entire process. And so as a financial planner, people oftentimes have a difficult time separating, insurance and investments. And if they have a poor experience dealing with me with insurance, that reflects their impression of me on dealing with other things, even though sometimes it's beyond my, scope. So you want to make the process as seamless as possible and as frictionless as possible. But with insurance, it is, there are some hoops to jump through, and there are less and less advisors basically selling insurance these days. And part of it is because just how onerous the process is to get an approval in place.
And then even when the approval is in place, sometimes you have what happened to us. So I sent off the signature to you. And then a week after the enforced policy was already in place, I get an email I get a letter in the mail from the carrier stating that I did not supply my signature in time and my policy was going to be voided. And so I emailed you right away. I said, hey, Darren, I got this letter, what's going on? And you then had to go to the carrier. And actually, I think you said you had to go to your MGA, didn't you?
Yeah, go through the MGA immediately to get this fixed up and in place. But yeah, it's a lot of the carriers. So some are faster than others, some are slower than others. But even still, we were chatting about technology earlier and dealing with the different, whether it's DocuSign or whatever. Some carriers have their own e-signature platform they want you to use. Some allow DocuSign. Some have their own version of it. Some only allow it in certain instances. And as an advisor, it is very difficult to keep track of everything. With some carriers, if you go through the original application process with DocuSign, you have to sign the delivery requirements with DocuSign. For some, if you sign it like with a wet signature in the beginning, you have to continue wet signatures throughout the entire process. Some carriers allow you to use it to update beneficiaries, some don't. So even though like technology is wonderful, sometimes it can be a little misleading. It's like, I got your signature, everything's good, you send it in, it's done. It's like, well, with all the other carriers it would have been done, and now another carrier is, oh no, we need a wet signature still just on delivery, but it was okay on the application process. So
we got there. We finally got it all sorted out. And so I think from start to finish, we started in August and we ended up policy in place at the beginning of December. So we had a 4-month window between the start of the process to the end of the process. But I'm very grateful I had you along the way. I knew like going in, like I've already seen behind the curtain, so to speak, of the insurance industry. So I know the cogs and the slowness that things sometimes can take. But it was nice having somebody like you around. You were always reassuring. You were very calm. Like if I had a question, you were there. Like I could call you, I could text you, I could email you. You were very available to, you're like, I might not get back to you right away, but I'll get back to you.
Thanks. In terms of the overall speed or efficiency, if we only went with one carrier along the way, it likely would have been done much quicker, but you would have paid more for it in the long run. So we wouldn't have got, or likely wouldn't have got, as low of a rating. Yeah, and I know it's a little frustrating going through the process, but now I know, like, we got multiple offers, multiple ratings, so we got the best rating we could get in the market. So it took longer, but I know like you're paying less now than if it was a little quicker.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously the final decision for me choosing that carrier was definitely because the rating was the best and that price was the best, because it's a term 10 product. So it had we had a $1 million coverage across all three plans that they were offered by the carriers. And we just went with, okay, what's the best premium? And that's ultimately what it came down to. We did talk obviously about conversion opportunities in the future and what that would look like. And maybe that's a future episode. but no, it was, as much as there was some challenges in the process, it was good getting to see it from a consumer point of view and being able to walk through it with you and talk through it with you. And did I ask more questions? I think I might have asked more questions than the normal person, but I don't know.
So definitely way more specific questions on products and things like that. The average consumer, they don't know the difference in, whole life or universal life or partial conversion. They just know it's basically we have insurance, we need insurance, we need the right amount, or we need enough. And they don't have as many specific questions on, say, future conversion opportunities because they just don't know. So it was more fun being able to exercise my full scope of practice, dealing with all the different insurance carriers and knowing all the different nuances from one to the other. Almost like, I guess, an insurance nerd to be able to speak to it all. But so yeah, that was more fun on my end. But definitely also, you got to be more prepared in advance of our meetings.
Yeah. Well, no, it was really great talking to you and really great dealing with you. Wow, we're still in it together for the next 10 years. So you're not going away anytime.
Longer than that. Hopefully, but no, all good, Matt. No, it was a pleasure. And again, as I say to, unfortunately, way too many of my clients, so where this process was so onerous to jump through all the hoops. But I guess until there's no more blood work required for insurance, maybe in the future with big data or other things to be a little easier to get approved for insurance. But until then, it is a barrier that all of us advisors do need to work with and coach our clients through, and continue putting pressure on insurance companies to not require blood work as often,
or just an easier health approval process.
Yes. So another thing is that I know some clients, like, oftentimes like, oh well, I want to pay the lowest cost in term insurance. Yes, of course, but to have other options out there, it's like, look, without blood work, like, we can potentially issue a tentative approval with higher rating. It's like you can take it now, or give you the choice. Like, if you want to go through the full process, you potentially get a better rating if we get more info from you. And I know there will be some clients who say, no, I just want the coverage as fast as possible and put a plan in place and basically be willing to pay a little extra for that.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, let's do a little plug for you and your company. Where can people find you if they are, what provinces are you licensed in so that they know, and then if they want to reach out to you, and how can they reach out to you?
Oh, thanks. Thanks, Matt. So British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Ontario, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, Labrador. So yeah, you can find us online. Our website is www.ryco.ca. It's RYCO, short for Ryan Company. So yeah, my dad's been in business for over 40 years. I have a team of 10 people here. So I work in family business. Me, my brother, my dad and mom are all here, plus six other staff, a couple of advisors, some admin staff. And so yeah, we do employee benefits, pensions, insurance, and investments. So we're a comprehensive financial planning firm here based out of St. John's, but yeah, we're certainly a growing firm and always open to calls from new prospective clients.
Awesome. Well, thanks very much, Darren, for joining today, and we will keep in touch over the years, obviously, as the plan grows and changes. So
sounds good. Well, all the best. Thanks again, and it's a pleasure working with you too.
Hey listeners, we're celebrating a major milestone here at LDA, our 10th anniversary. And to mark the occasion, we've got 2 special offers just for you. First, if you're a new advisor who's never tried LDA before, go to www.lifedesignanalysis.com/SIGN-UP. Not only will you get 15 days free access to Life Design Analysis, if you enter code POLICYPOD, that's POLICYPOD, at checkout, you will receive 20% off your first year of LDA. This offer is valid until the end of September 2024. Terms and conditions do apply. We're also launching what we're calling the LDA Success Stories Sweepstakes. If LDA has helped you win a case or transformed your sales process with your clients, we would like to hear from you. Send your stories to marketing@lifedesignanalysis.com, and we will be drawing one lucky person to win exclusive LDA swag and a $100 Amazon gift card. Plus, stories will be featured in an upcoming episode of PolicyPod. Submissions are open until December 1st, 2024. Don't miss out on either of these great offers, and thank you for being part of our 10 years in business, and we look forward to serving you for decades to come. And that's a wrap for this episode of PolicyPod by LDA. I want to extend a huge thank you to Darren Ryan of Ryco Financial for joining me on my journey to get life insurance and for all the valuable insights along the way. It definitely has been a roller coaster of highs and lows, but having the right advisor made all of the difference. Before I go, I want to extend an invitation for you to join our growing community on LinkedIn in our PolicyPod by LDA group. It's a space where we can continue the conversation and connect with others in the industry. Also, if you have any topics that you would like us to cover or want to be a guest on the show, I would love to hear from you. You can reach out to me at marketing@lifedesignanalysis.com and we can connect. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time, have yourselves a wonderful day.